Palworld has been made by Pocket Pair, who have also made Craftopia for those of you who have played it. One of the interesting features about Palworld is the central theme of pals, who you can tame and then train up to fight with. The added twist is that you and your pals can and will most likely use guns, anything from pistols up to multi-firing RPGs. Yep, that's right, your pal can have a shoulder-mounted multi-firing RPG. Palworld, despite its cartoony appearance, has a darker feel to it, and the developers are promising to allow the player the freedom to make their own choices in how they want to exist in a world that has pals working as slaves in factories and can also be used as shields to block bullets being shot at the player. With the taming system, you will be able to ride your pal in the ocean, assuming it can swim of course, or fly it in the sky to cover large distances of this wonderful looking landscape. The game really does feel like it offers players so many choices. Do you want to be a poacher and steal pals from places where you shouldn't be? Or do you want to stop the poachers from doing the same? Or both? Of course there will be breeding of pals to make all sorts of weird and wonderful combinations, but why stop there? This game isn't cute and fuzzy like other monster tamer games, so in this game pals can also eat other pals. Yummy. Use those pals to look after your crops of food if you don't feel like eating the pals. Put a hammer into its hands and get them to make a house. Use one to light your fires or mine resources for you if you want. The choice is yours. Palworld was originally looking at a 2022 release, but has since updated to 2023, and that is not necessarily a bad thing, allowing Pocket Pair extra time to bring this bright and dark game to life. There isn't a lot known about Survival Machine so far, but from what we can gather, it is a unique take in the survival genre, where your base being a gigantic moving platform that makes me think of the movie Mortal Engines. You can upgrade this moving platform with cannons to help fight off the hordes of zombies trying to attack your mobile home, or maybe you want to upgrade your engine so it's a little bit more fuel efficient. These are some of the choices that you're going to be made within the game. While your base is trundling through the landscape, you can disembark to go collecting resources in a variety of biomes you'll pass through, all while fighting off hostile zombies who are not too keen about you being there and want to board your little mobile city and tear apart all the hard work you put into it. This looks like it's going to be great fun play with mates, and no doubt I can picture a scenario too where I might be tempted to push a friend off as bait if the city engine starts to slow down. The artwork might not be to the taste of everyone, but then some might have said that about Valheim, and that sure has had some beautiful moments in the game. We don't know when this is being released, but here is hoping it is soon because it looks like a lot of fun. Nightingale is being made by Inflection Games and is set in a Victorian gaslamp fantasy world where you have something called a realm walker, which is basically someone who explores different, yeah you guessed it, realms, with the end goal of eventually finding Nightingale itself, the last bastion of humanity. The fun part of this is that you can customize the worlds you go to with cards, altering the biome, monsters and resources to name a few things. Speaking of biomes, it will have all the usual ones to choose from, including forests, swamps, deserts and jungles. Base defense will have attacks from creatures called the Bound, and the player will have the ability to set up barricades to attempt to keep them at a distance to defend their base. But the player doesn't just have to do this by themselves or with friends. In Nightingale, you have NPCs who will help automate production, work on your house, and also help with the gathering of materials. Inflection Games state that they will be showcasing more of this content in the future, and we can hope that this will be nice and robust for early access. Unlike other games where a player enters a new world and the other players get teleported to that player, in Nightingale this will not happen. Instead, your party can be split between multiple locations, so if someone wants to chill at the base and work on that, then there is nothing stopping them while the rest of the party goes off exploring. We will have all the usual gathering of trees and ore, but we'll also be able to enchant our weapons with magical abilities to potentially give it a little extra kick. And we will need that extra kick as we explore the worlds we come across, because in each biome there lurks a potentially colossal apex predator of some kind. Although we're also being told that we can handle this situation with more than just combat. Nightingale promises to have a lot of lore in the game for those that like to sink their teeth into how the world came about, with promises that the lore will be spread out through the world in the form of NPCs as well as books to read and enjoy. Nightingale has just recently changed their release date from the last quarter of 2022 to the first half of 2023, citing the need to upgrade to Unreal Engine 5 and wanted to take more time to polish and improve on content. Although some might complain about a delay, no doubt more would complain if the game was a buggy mess. Under a Rock is being developed by Nordic Trolls, which is an interesting backstory that you are a Victorian-era explorer who's crash-landed their balloon in an isolated area where evolution has taken a bit of a different path. Creatures have grown to enormous proportions and Neanderthals are roaming the area. The visuals are bright and engaging, as well as being dark and enveloping at night, with creatures that you normally wouldn't encounter during the day will be roaming about at night. The fun thing about UAR is that they will have an advanced AI for their tribes, so that the tribes will build up their own resources and you will have to compete against them. Of course, this will bring a lot of fun for those that like defending their base from enemy attacks, as well as having to coordinate with friends to try and eliminate enemy tribes. The developers are very active in their Discord and often engage with members of the community, answering questions and sharing the progress of their game. The procedural generation of the game world, combined with the AI of the tribes and wildlife, promises a lot of replayability for players and a good time for 1 to 10 players at a time. The combat will involve the usual sort of light, heavy and charge attack, as well as having active blocking, parrying and dodge rolling. The developers have a good sense of humour, so expect to see that reflected in some of the more strange weapons that will be available. Look out for testing to come in the future, with the developers mentioning that they will be looking at people, particularly from their Discord community, to help test in the future. So come along and interact in Discord and potentially help shape this game in the future. Forever Skies is different in that your base is in fact an airship that you float around in, hopefully keeping above in the pollution that is called the dust, that exists below your feet from an as yet unknown ecological disaster. Forever Skies will feature a lot of exploring and unravelling of the story, as well as slowly reclaiming technology to improve your airship with things such as better engines for greater elevation, or mounted weapons to fend off enemies or retrieve supplies, amongst other things. While not being procedurally generated, instead being handcrafted to further the story along for the players to find out what has happened to the world and why there is this dust. Technology will be playing a large part in the game. Not just the airship itself, there will also be areas of the world where you can see what happens after humans have left, with nature slowly reclaiming what once was. Forever Skies promises to have up to 4-player co-op, with all players operating on the same ship, but able to take different roles on the ship itself, so you won't have a ship each to your own. While piloting your airship, there will be more than enemies to look out for. There's always lightning strikes and floating debris that will also damage your ship and possibly slow it down or worse. Forever Skies describes itself as an action survival game taking place on Earth, with us returning and exploring the world hundreds of years after some as yet unknown ecological event that has left a mysterious dust. So it remains to be seen what we're going to find below the dust, with the flora and fauna that has not had any interference from humans. With vibes from Grounded for sure, this game has been coming soon for some time now, but that doesn't stop it from looking amazing. There is a promise of playing this either in PvP or co-op, and personally this sort of game looks great for co-op with taming, and who doesn't want to buzz about the massively small landscape on the back of your own friendly little bee. The seasonal system sounds like it is going to add a lot of immersion, with nice bright looking summer days and cold gloomy looking days in winter. This will not only just be a visual feature in game, but will also affect your character in terms of cold and heat, as well as certain creatures being more common in particular seasons. The building and aesthetic of the game ramps up that immersion, and the Merge Games team who have been developing this game really showed off and pay extra attention, with extra work being done on the scalability of trees this year and how you feel when standing next to one and just how massive they seem in comparison. The buildings that you can make for yourself can be made anywhere, with the idea that you have a main base in the trees and then potentially other bases anywhere in the world, and those bases are highly customizable so that you can really let your creativity shine in the world. Combat looks really fun and engaging as well, with the ability to make bows and swords to engage all manner of critters ranging from annoying flies to cockroaches that have a toxicity factor. But there is help for this, as the armor you wear can also have mitigation against this. There will be boss fights in Smalland, which I can only imagine has been a terrifying experience, with no doubt some angry spider trying to eat me. There won't be dungeons in the literal sense of the word like other games, and instead the experience of the handcrafted world will act more or less as a dungeon and to keep the immersion going and not just have a dungeon for the sake of one. Speaking of a handcrafted world, yes, that is correct. It will not be procedurally generated at all. So we come to one of the most anticipated survival games for 2023, and that is of course Ark 2, being developed by Studio Wildcard with help from Grove Street Games for the consoles. Ark 2 is going to have the same sort of sandbox mode that it had in the first Ark, but there will also be a story mode where Vin Diesel will play as Santiago, who is trying to protect his daughter named Mika. Apart from that, we don't know too much about the story mode, which isn't a bad thing at the moment. Good news is that there is going to be a full support for mods, so people will be able to make their own creatures, maps, etc. to add to the game to share with other people. Combat and interactions through the world is looking to get a change as well, with target locking, blocking, dodging, combos and special attacks all making an appearance, as well as climbing, parkour, sliding and swinging to get about the landscape. It sounds like just moving and fighting is going to be a hell of a lot of fun, even without interacting with dinosaurs, and especially with the new AI system, which promises that they will be hunted with sight, sound and smell. Sounds like collecting dung might be a little bit more dangerous than it was with the first Ark. For those seeking to know more about the PvE, it is good to find out there will be a hostile force who will attack us with their own rideable, tamed creatures, which sounds awesome. Crafting sounds far from basic as well, with a new component system where we can modify the look and functional ability of our weapons and gear, apparently with millions of combinations. Another cool feature is with player-made structures. Not only have they had more attention put into them to allow for better server performance, but they have also increased draw distance and the ability to save a template of a building to share with other people. The world and the immersion factor sounds like it has been increased drastically from the first game as well, with dynamic world events, foliage moving as you touch it, water flowing around objects, storm clouds and much more. The day-night system sounds like it has been improved as well. What all this means is a more immersive experience for you and me. Being developed by Night Games, Sons of the Forest is definitely on the wish list of many people and possibly one of the most anticipated games on this list, where you can expect all the features from 2018 smash hit The Forest, but this time instead of crash landing on the island, we have instead been sent to a remote island in search of a billionaire. Either way, we can safely assume we will be getting many jump scares and the night is going to be a nightmare of a place, with all sorts of demons and mutated creatures coming out of the darkness to make us never want to sleep again. The visuals look absolutely amazing, showing the world in all its splendour and graphically gory detail. From the trailers we can see nowhere is safe. The water has sharks, the cave ceilings have mutated critters crawling all over them, and the rest of the world just has everything else. Sons of the Forest will not be procedurally generated, and will of course be handcrafted like the original was, allowing for all those little touches we can expect from this game. You will be able to build anywhere like in the original, and if you are anything like me, this will probably be a cabin by the sea where I can snack on a steady supply of turtles. I never thought I'd say that in a game. To defend your home away from home in this horror-infested world, we will have pistols, axes, stun batons, and all sorts of weapons to slay whatever abominations come our way. Not only will we have to defend ourselves from all manner of mutated critters, but there will also be seasons in the game, and if we have not stocked up on a good supply of turtle meat, then when winter comes we might find ourselves just a little bit hungry. Time will tell if this game can live up to all the hype surrounding it. Derelicts is being made by a single developer who has been updating their YouTube channel with the work that they have been doing, and it looks really interesting. From realism features such as water running down player-made buildings to an automation process where logs will travel down an aqueduct to be transported to a sawmill, the developer appears to be pushing out some interesting features. You will of course have all the usual survival tropes of chopping down trees and mining ores and stones, while taking care of any mutated wildlife unfortunate enough to cross your path. As well as these basics, we will also be using the power of wind, sun and water to power up your base through solar panels, wind turbines and water wheels. The key to this will be the management when dealing with the elements, in that the lake can freeze over, making your water wheel not so good anymore, or at night time not having that big burning globe in the sky to power your solar panels. You will also be able to have a dog companion to help keep you company, as well as Coop of course. Now for something a little different, we have Monster Outbreak, being developed by Game Munchers and being released on August 25th for PC. MO is a top-down survival game where you need to quickly gear your character up, prepare your base, and get ready for the hordes of creatures that are spawning out of the dimensional orb. Do this by yourself, with friends online, or on a split screen for all the action. You will be using many different traps and turrets to help defend yourself and your base, combining that with weapons that you can enchant to do elemental damage against your colourful foes. If you manage to live through the waves of monsters, then you will be rewarded with some time until they come again. So sit on your haunches, repair, or go out into the world to see what you can discover, and maybe, just maybe, you might find a way to stop the invasion of monsters issuing out of the dimensional orb before they overwhelm you. Sunkenland is a water-world themed survival game being developed by Vector 3 Studio, and while we don't know a whole lot about it at the moment, what they are promising does sound good. I personally enjoyed the Waterworld movie, so having a game set in that world does excite me. Sunkenland is promising to have base building in this aquatic world where you can build a floating castle, an abandoned ship base, or any sort of weird and wonderful post-apocalyptic base through their module base design. And you will want to make it a good one, as clans of pirates, warlords, and mutants will be possibly trying to beat down the doors of your little floating city. There will be, of course, all the usual trading where you can try and get new supplies, weapons, armor, and all sorts of special items, as well as buying at one trader and then selling to another for profit. It sounds like exploration is going to be big as well, with diving for sunken cities, treasure, and ancient technologies all being part of the game. I haven't heard anything really on character creation yet, so I'm not sure if you will have the choice of races at the start, and if we can play as our favourite mutant from the movie. Fingers crossed that this game turns out well, as it is always a great thing when a developer tries to break away from the mold and try something new in a different setting that has a promise of a lot of potential.